Alright, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and it is time to change drum heads, and I thought I would give a few tips for making this a stress-free, easy thing to do. A lot of people, including myself, I used to be very nervous about changing drum heads, and really there's just a few things you need to do to make it successful. So the first tip I can give you is practice tuning the drums outside of your regular practice time or when you want to play the drum set. So have your drum tuning time, have your playing time, but I typically don't like to do them together because then I get frustrated because I'm not playing, I'm tuning. So I've got this is a 14-inch mid-70s Rogers tom, and I've already got the head put on here, but what we're going to do is just go through a couple of things for how to get a good quick tone, and then we can dial it in, because I have 4 drums I've got to do here. We'll go over a snare drum too. So you'll see I got a towel there. I got my setup here. Just, it's good to just get it kind of a setup where it's easy to work. And so what you do is you tip this over where you're muting one head with that towel, and then all I'm going to do is, you don't have to use a mallet, you can use your fingers or whatever. All I'm going to do is make sure that I get a similar tone across the lugs, and this is what I call getting the drum head in tune with itself. So I want this lug sounding similar to this lug, and this one's a little bit more finicky because it's a classic drum set. It's a vintage drum set, so I'll say. So what I'm going to do is, I'm simply going to hit these lugs, find one that I like. These two are similar, so I'm going to go with this one, and then I'm going to go across. And I know some of you don't like hitting, I'm using a mallet, it's softer, you can use your finger though. And all I'm going to do is hum that tone to myself and get them similar to each other. And this one's a little bit lower. So while I'm changing the top head, I'm going to take the opportunity to tighten up this bottom head. And I just hum them. They don't have to be exact. So that one's a little bit lower. And typically, the pattern I go in here, across from here, here, across from there, here, across from there, and then here, across from there. I started with this one on this one though. I've been doing this a long time, so I do it a little bit quicker. So I've got the bottom head. I'm happy with it. Later I'll dial it in once I get it on the drum set, but I'm happy with that. This is a new drum head on the top. That's the one I'm changing. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got them hand tightened down, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to seat the drum head. Don't press too hard, but 2 hands, you press down on the middle. You may hear a crack or two on the plastic, and then all we do is just start tightening them. So I just tighten them up a little bit, and then for this gig I've got them tuned pretty low. So I'm going to tighten them up, and then I'm going to find a pitch that I like with one of them, and then I'm going to get all the lugs to the same pitch. You don't have to do it this way, but for me this is the quickest and easiest way to ensure that the drum is in tune with itself, and from there I can chase weird tones once I know that the head is in tune with itself. If I've got one lug over here that's humming it like and one over here that's like you're going to get this weird tone. So if I can get them at least close, then it's easier. Again, mute the other head so that you're only getting the sound from this head. So this one's a little bit lower. That one's real low. And if I'm having trouble getting this one up, then this lug may be the culprit. I need to raise it a little bit before I go any further. So that one's real low. See, that was probably the issue over here. I just see how quick this is. I'm just humming the tune. I'll worry about dialing in later. I just want to get a good tone. So they're all a similar tone, and that should have a good sound. While we're on this topic of tuning, I just wanted to take a second and mention, look, I have an online drum school. I am a working drummer. I'm at a festival right now in Idaho, and I talk multiple times a week with my students. I have 2 calls a week. We have over 70 lesson tracks in the members area, forums, along with a 1 lesson track that's in depth on tuning. So please take the opportunity, join our family. I'd love to have you in there. I'd love to meet you on a live call. We are real working drummers, that it's not just kind of like things we thought of. Like, these are things that work. Things I teach are the things that I found that work in my career. And the same goes with tuning. So I'd love to have you in there. So that's really it. What I want to do is I want to tweak up the bottom head, and essentially with each head I want to deal with it as one entity, and then we'll deal with it later together as a whole. So I want to go around here, and make sure these are sounding similar. We just hum them to ourselves. Then here and here, I tap about an inch from each edge to make sure that they're sounding. And I just go around in that star pattern. And once they're all somewhat in tune with themselves, then I have a drum set that I can chase down weird frequencies. If the fall's too much, I can adjust the bottom head. The bottom head has to do with the fall, boom or boom, and taking it up or down is going to affect that. So that's the tom. Now let me get the snare drum, and we'll look at the snare drum because that's a different entity altogether. And then we'll put them all on the drum set. I've got a 14-inch, 16-inch, 18-inch toms, and then I have a 8x14, I believe, copperphonic. So I'm gonna rehead the copperphonic, and we'll look at that because that one's a little bit different. You don't only have the top head and the bottom head, but you've got the wires too. I did want to say as well, the one thing I like to do is make sure that I have the high tom and the low tom tuned where I want them, and then I put that middle tom in between them. So I deal with the high one first, then the low one, get those how I want, and then that middle one comes and I just nest it in between. So I have a boom, boom, boom kind of going down, a nice fall between those. But I don't mess with that middle one until I get that top and bottom done. All right, so now we've got the snare drum. It's a little bit different. I've already put the head on here, and you don't need to see that. It's a little bit different because you're dealing with the top head, the bottom head, and the snare wires. So again, I'm changing the top head. This one's pretty trashed. I'm going with an Aquarian texture coated with a dot in the middle. So what I'm going to do is, since I've got it pulled off the kit, again, got the towel under there to mute one side, I'm going to turn this over, turn the snares off, and I'm going to take this opportunity to make sure the bottom head is sounding good. So I take this and put it across there, and that'll keep those snares up there while I'm tuning. So this one's a little, that was the wrong one. I'll go with this one. Again, I go a little bit higher than the top head. And the bottom head on the snare is going to give you the snap of the snares. That's not trying to, I have heard on some vintage snare drums that tuning the bottom head lower actually helps get a better tone. Haven't experimented with that myself, but again, all we're doing is getting these in tune with themselves. Getting the head in tune with itself. All right, so we got that done. Again, we're trying to get a starting point, something we can work with. I just put this one on, so again, just gonna seat that head, and then I'm gonna go around the edges, and this is pretty low. I keep this one tuned pretty low for this gig, so I'm going to just start somewhere. I may bring the whole thing up. See how much lower that is? Same process I just did. In just a couple of minutes, I've got the whole thing. So they're in a general area, and then this should sound good. So again, it's the same as the tom. I dealt with the bottom head, now the top head, now deal with the snare wires. Turn those on. Okay, good. So we're getting a good response. What I want is, when I tap it to hear snares, not the drum head. And you can tell it's real snary. So we want a good enough snap, but I don't want it so low that I'm hearing more head than I am snare. Good. That's a good starting point. Now we'll go put these on the kit, and then we'll fine tune them from there.